Have you guys ever noticed how loosely we tend to use the word king or queen nowadays? We say things like Elvis the King or Queen Beyonce. We have Michael Jackson, the king of pop. We have LeBron James, who is the king of basketball. And my personal favorite, the Blizzard, is the king of Dairy Queen. We throw those words around to mean someone who is the best at what they do, someone powerful. But today the church celebrates Jesus Christ, King of the universe. In the gospel, we see Jesus not looking regal with a golden crown or servants at his service. The gospel today gives us Jesus on a cross. The people say, if you are king, then save yourself. But Jesus shows us that a true king is someone who refuses to save himself just so he can save everyone else. This isn't a king that's saying, serve me. Jesus is a king that says, I came to serve you. Jesus isn't a king that says, bow down before me. He says, Jesus is a king that says, stand up with your head held high and walk right next to me. It's no coincidence that we're hearing this reading today, the last Sunday before Advent. Next week, we start the anticipation of the birth of Jesus, while today we're experiencing Jesus in his last moments. The last moment shows us exactly why Jesus is king. In these last moments, Jesus has two people on his side. One is taunting him, if you're the king, save yourself and us, while the other recognized truly who Jesus was. He's oftentimes known as the good thief. He was someone who I imagine had nothing, no power, no position, nothing to offer. He looks to Jesus and says, remember me. There wasn't a long speech, a beautiful prayer. He doesn't ask for forgiveness or anything. Just a simple request to be remembered by Jesus. In this moment, all he has is a heart that says, Lord, I need you. This has to be the good thief's worst moment of his entire life. And Jesus turns to him and says, well, come on down. That is our king. Today in our first reading, we hear something that I feel gets a little overlooked. The people of Israel chose David as their king because, as they said, you are bone of our bone and flesh of our flesh. In other words, you get us. You are one of us. They didn't choose David because of his resume or because he had a perfect record. They chose him because he understood them. And here's the truth. It's always easier to be led by someone who understands your story. Think about it. Anyone who's ever worked for a boss or a teacher or a coach, you know it's different when you feel like they get you. It's easier to trust someone who's been through the same things that you've been through. Someone who understands the late nights, the pressures, the fears, the worries. I'm the general manager for Dairy Queen, and one thing that I've learned in the last couple of years is leadership without understanding becomes control. Leadership with understanding can lead to a relationship. Oftentimes that leads me to see the person standing right in front of you. That's what the people of Israel wanted. They wanted a leader who knew what it was to be a shepherd. They wanted a leader who knew what it was like to be hungry. They wanted a leader who understood the dangers that existed in their lives. Jesus comes to us in our lives when we need him most. If Jesus is our king, then that means we are his people. And if we say we are his people, we have to look and act like his people. We are called to be a kingdom of open arms, a kingdom where everyone matters, a kingdom where the hungry are fed and the lonely find a place they belong. And the good news I have for everyone today is that we all have it in us to help build this kingdom. How do we have it in us, you ask? Because of this. A simple, very simple oil. At baptism, we were all anointed priests, prophets, and queens or kings. That means that Jesus didn't just keep his kingship to himself. That it means that Jesus shares it with all of us today. When we were baptized, God planted things in our hearts, things that we need. We have everything in our heart planted by God to love a little more, to forgive a little more, to be more welcoming, to bring healing instead of harm, to build bridges instead of walls. We all have the same royal DNA that Jesus had. So this week, as we prepare for the holidays, I pray that God opens our hearts and our minds and our arms for those in need. I pray that every day that we choose to help build the kingdom of God, and in turn building up the people